Well, good afternoon. I'm Ed Wolfe, your Kitsap County Commissioner from Central Kitsap. I'm going to take my mask off because we are social distancing at least 6 feet apart from my guests today. I hope you're safe. I hope you're healthy during these perilous times. I say this the last couple of times on my Commissioner's Corner, but we're slowly going to come out of this. I think we're coming out of this. That's not a political statement. We have to come out of this, and we're going to come out of this together. I'm very confident of that. Today I've got a special two guests. I'll introduce them to you in just a moment, but we're going to be talking to two individuals that are directly involved with Keita, Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. Take a break and be right back with you. I'm going to introduce you to our guests and just have an informal conversation. So Nathan Evans, Principal Software Architect, Microsoft. Day job. You've been with Microsoft for a while, I believe.
Yep, about 4 years.
You're now 4 years. You're now the chairman of the executive board for Keita, Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. Can you just tell our guests at home, what is Keita, what do they do, and what do you do as chair?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Keita is really the organization in Kitsap County that's thinking about economic development for our community. We're thinking about how to attract businesses, how to retain the businesses that are here and help them be successful. As board chair, there are certain legal responsibilities with that, but really what I think about it as is it's a position of sort of liaison between the board, between the team, thinking about strategy and vision for the organization, and what's upcoming in the horizon of my chairship, which is 2 years.
You're in your second year?
I'm in my first year.
First year.
Yep.
Because you won, was it Member of the Year? You won something last year or two.
Distinguished alumni.
Distinguished alumni.
Olympic
Tell us
College.
about that.
Yeah. So I grew up in Kitsap County, went to Olympic College, did the Western Washington University program on the peninsulas, and have been really just fortunate to spend my career in Kitsap County as a software engineer. And so that award was just with my involvement in Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, as a local alum of Olympic College, having an impact on.
Gone to OC, yeah. Let's talk, before we get over to Joe Morrison, let's talk about why retention is equally as important as attracting new businesses to Kitsap County, if you care to touch on that.
Sure. I think anybody who lives here knows that it's a fantastic place to be. We've got this great opportunity for work-life balance, a wonderful environment to be in after work, right? And we recognize that we export also a lot of our talent to Seattle. And so I'm really excited about the idea of building business here, making it attractive here so that people can live their whole lives here. They can work and contribute directly to our community's economy. And also, you get done at 5 o'clock and you can throw a kayak in the sound and recreate. So.
How do you see businesses, how do we attract businesses from the other side? Seattle probably is the example we use all the time, but how do we attract businesses, we being Kitsap County, Keita leadership, how do we attract businesses to Kitsap County?
Well, I think there's a variety of interesting aspects there. And so from my industry, which is tech, I would say, for example, that we can build an entrepreneurial ecosystem of startups here in Kitsap County. We've got a lot of great talent.
We're doing that, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We've got Startup Kitsap, which is working to help incubate. And we're also close to a major hub like Seattle. And so we know there's a lot of talent in the area. There's access to resources from that larger side, but that we can use here. So it's like a perfect mix to me to have this lower cost of living, but access to many of the same resources.
I was very excited when the first Starbucks came here quite a few years ago, and was equally excited when Microsoft decided to have a satellite office, whatever you call your office, in Silverdale, actually. You were working on the other side for Microsoft. weren't you?
I was not actually.
were working
I
from a
formerly
free-
worked here in Silverdale for another software engineering company.
Another company, yeah. So you weren't commuting back and forth.
I was not.
Why do you believe that little Kitsap got the radar from Microsoft, probably because of you, got the radar to let's open up an office here? And you're probably not able to talk about what you do, but
I can talk a little bit about it. So the short answer is talent, right? There's a tremendous amount of software engineering and technical talent here, actually. Part of that is the history of the military in Kitsap, and there's a lot of contractors doing work here. And part of that is the proximity to Seattle. So we knew we could hire competitive people if we had an office here in Kitsap County. And again, as I've said, it's a win-win in terms of cost of living, the cost of operations. It's a great opportunity.
the talent was here,
Yeah.
in your opinion.
Yep.
And I remember quite a few years ago, or a few years ago, there was a company no longer here, Paladin Data Systems. I was their corporate counsel for years. And that, I think that's the type of company with the experts that Microsoft may have been looking for, something like that.
Yep.
Are they not Paladin, but is that community, that high-tech community, growing in Kitsap now?
Well, I mean, I don't know what to say about the last few months. I will say,
Prior to COVID.
yeah. So obviously, Microsoft opened an office over here. Amazon just recently opened up a distribution center. I don't know whether or not there are other businesses opening satellite offices explicitly, but I do know we've got co-working spaces where people can work for companies that are elsewhere and be here. And then post-COVID, of course, we've got a whole new world of remote work with a lot of people here and people coming over.
It seems like every time I look in the newspaper, individuals are now saying, not just in the Northwest, but they're saying, I don't have to work downtown in Seattle, or I don't have to work in San Francisco or LA. And in fact, they're moving here.
Yeah.
And not just from across the pond or across Puget Sound, they're moving here. Are you seeing that? I'm seeing it in the real estate market.
We are,
anyway,
yeah.
Business-wise.
Yep. And folks from many tech companies are doing that as well. I've seen it in the real estate industry too. I really do think that there's going to be a long-term shift in how we think about what our office spaces mean, about what our collaboration means, in-person versus remote. And for an industry like tech or others where we are fortunate enough to be able to work from home, I think it's going to be a long-term change.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to address that question about the change that's coming, whether it's virtual or a hybrid, in just a minute. Ask both of you that question. But let me ask you, and if you can answer this, great. If not, I'm sure Joe will be able to. How can Keita, Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, be a resource for already established companies in Kitsap County? I talked earlier about retention and attracting businesses and retaining businesses here. How can Keita be a resource for that?
Yeah, I'll cover two things. So one, in the midst of the pandemic, Keita is administering the CARES grant program for the county, the state, and
Thank you.
two
Great
of the
job.
cities.
Great staff, by the way.
The team
Great
is
staff.
working really, really hard on this. And so that is like a direct, tangible right now. If you need support as a small business, the team is here to help. Another great example, one of the services that I think is really phenomenal that Keita provides is called PTAC. It's Procurement Technical Assistance Center.
Say that again.
PTAC.
Yeah, I understand, but
Procurement Technical Assistance Center.
Good.
And what they do is they help businesses navigate the government contracting world. And that's a really big part of the industry here in Kitsap County. And so if you're a small business and you need to figure out the best way to bid, how to be competitive, how to navigate that paperwork and so on, the team is really excellent at providing those consulting and coaching services.
Feel free to give Kathy Kokos a plug if you like.
Yeah, all of them.
Both of them.
Kathy, Teresa, and Mary Jo.
Yeah, yeah. They also have Eric Baker on speed dial, as you know. Eric Baker is the Director of Policy for the three commissioners, and actually has been leading the whole charge for the county with the CARES funding. But Keita's done a remarkable job, continues to do a remarkable job for helping us allocate funds to small businesses, medium-sized businesses. So I try not to talk about COVID in every one of the commissioner's corners that I do. Somehow it comes up. I mean,
It is 2020.
It's our life. It's our life. Tell me, if you would, what you perceive as changes that may occur to businesses in Kitsap County, regionally, or in the nation, with regard to, probably not telecommuting, that's maybe an old word right now, but with businesses that will be working here, or individuals be working here. Where do you see this virtual world going? I even hate to use the word Zoom or Microsoft Friends, but where do you see this world going? Because you're in that world. Where do you see this going in the future?
Well, I think part of what it did was it sort of forced us all to learn really rapidly how best to use the tools that actually existed already for remote collaboration. We already had, Zoom and Teams and Google Meet and all of these things.
Was Zoom
available.
before the pandemic?
Yeah, I was there. It just wasn't a buzzword as much, right?
Yeah.
Many of these things were like that. And, like Office for a long time has had real-time collaboration features so you can work on documents together. There are a lot of those sorts of things that I think this just kind of, it made us learn it. And in a way that's been a very good thing, because it's allowed us to accomplish a lot. It's allowed us to include people that weren't being included well before, opening up access to different meetings and environments with folks. So I think for the long term, we've learned new ways to sort of asynchronously and synchronously collaborate, even if we're not in the same room together.
And you were doing that with Microsoft pre-COVID?
Yeah. In fact, our team...
Regularly?
Yeah, our team is distributed. Most of us are in Silverdale, but we do have a couple of folks in Redmond and one person even in the United Kingdom. So we were already in that sort of zone of doing remote collaboration, and then it just, it kind of became 100%.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Even the county has something like 1,300 employees. I've been working at home since March, and when I go upstairs to our offices, there may be 2 or 3 people up there that have to be there for certain reasons. It seems like there's a shift in terms of how we're all going to be working in the future. Do you think, maybe not for the Microsoft world, the tech world, do you think this is going to continue the virtual telecommuting world in the next 5 or 10 years?
I think for a lot of people it will. I think it's one of those things where it's sort of like, the toothpaste is out of the tube, right? Like people now know they can do this when maybe they didn't before. And that means people are clamoring for it. A lot of folks want to have some more flexibility. Not everybody wants to work remote all the time, and maybe people don't even want to do it that often. But now we know we can, and that introduces more flexibility into our lives and how we structure our work and personal lives, right? So I think there's elements of this that are going to be around for quite a while.
Anything else you want to add? It's your time. We're going to move on to Joe, and I know he's chomping at the bit over there. I can't see his face at this point, but I see his mask.
No, that's great. Great talking with you.
Yeah. Thanks for being chair, and I guess we have an executive committee meeting tomorrow, and I may come back to you with another question if I come up with it. Joe Morrison.
Ed,
who are you?
I have avoided putting my glasses on because when you wear a mask, you steam up your glasses. It's one of the beautiful things about mask wearing. Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Morrison, Executive Director of the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. Ed asked who I am. I'm an Alaska kid who moved to Port Orchard, Washington 3 years ago. And so for the last 8 years, I've been running the Municipality of Anchorage's Economic Development Fund that was focused on startups and innovation and funding startups in our community of Alaska. And so when this opportunity came up, right in my backyard, I'd moved down a couple years ago, I was really excited about it. And I was excited about it because this is an opportunity to do some of the work I was doing in Alaska, which is to take a group of stakeholders, grow it, and have them advocate for themselves. So, the last 8 years I've been running a hybrid economic development fund, equity investment vehicle, public-private partnership, and now I'm at the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. Delighted to be here.
So Joe, you started October 1st, I think, and I know Nathan was on your search committee. I was on the search committee. Who else was on there? Monica Blackwood was on there, and Steve Politankis from Kitsap Bank, and Greg from the Squamish Tribe. We did a nationwide search and spent a lot of hours leading up to your interview and with your interviews. I couldn't be happier with having you here. We had good talent, and it was close, but I think you're the right person at the right time. And this is just my personal view. When you were in Alaska, you were managing a very large fund. I believe that's what it was for the state of Alaska. And to manage that large fund, you had to help raise money also, probably, and did that successfully. So welcome, glad to have you here. You told us a little bit about yourself. How long were you in Alaska?
I mean, you know, I was, without dating myself too much, I've been there most of my life. I've lived in New York, Spain, Japan, but up until this week, and including the last 3 years I'd been down here, I was flying up to Alaska every month. So this is the first time I've voted outside the state of Alaska in my life, and I am not under 40, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So pretty momentous occasion for me this week.
Yeah. I also remember meeting, through Zoom I believe, your wife from Great Britain.
Yeah.
And just to bring this more home and more to home, isn't your wife a not elementary school teacher in Port Orchard?
Yeah, she is. She's a teacher of very young children, as young as you can get, right here for South Kitsap School District, and she's been doing that for 3 years.
Yeah.
She's about to transition from a life where she has been teaching these 5-year-olds digitally for the first 6 weeks, 8 weeks of school.
5-year-olds digitally?
Teaching 5-year-olds digitally, to where she is going to be managing these students on a yoga mat in her classroom. And the rules will be, you've got to be wearing your mask at all times in the classroom, you've got to be on the yoga mat at all times in your classroom. If you get up from the yoga mat, you've got to keep your mask on, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a different world for everybody.
Yeah. That's an understatement. Before I get into another line of questioning, Joe, going back to my conversation with a friend here, tell me, where do you see this virtual Zoom world going the next 5 years?
I agree with Nathan that there's going to be permanent changes in how we work and where we live because of this pandemic. I think that most people will be in the office between 30 to 80% of the time. If we were there 100% of the time in the past, you know, I think this has proven that you can still be efficient, you can still be effective, and the office is something that, you know, maybe you don't do every day, but that you do a couple days a week. And digital collaboration tools are on the uptick. These are the kinds of things that are going to reshape the world we live in. And it's going to be going on for I think, too long, longer than any of us would like, certainly.
Okay. How do you see that same subject? How do you see, with your new position as executive director of Keita, how do you see this new Zoom type of world, virtual world, impacting either positively or negatively your objectives to get out and meet with the public and to raise funds to bring businesses over? How do you see that affecting, how do you see this affecting your job as executive director?
It's a great question. It's been hard because I've had to meet people for the first time face to face and try to build relationships digitally. You know, I think I've probably had 3 or 4 in-person meetings this month since I started. Everything else has been digital, and I've probably met with 24, 28 people. So I think that this digital world is something we have to master, and we have to get good at it. Everybody's doing Zooms, and everyone's doing webinars, and everyone's doing PowerPoints. And to be effective and differentiate yourself, you've got to do it really, really well to cut through the clutter.
Okay. I see our producers give me some time here, but there are a couple of questions I want to make sure and jump in here if you feel like it. Just please jump in here. What are your priorities for 2021 as it relates to Keita Economic Development Alliance?
It's my favorite question. I'm very excited.
I didn't
you
plant
asked it.
that question.
I'm very excited because it's a really simple answer, and it's a little boring, but it's to stay here at home, and it's to focus on developing programs, partnerships, and technical assistance for the community of Kitsap. That's what we need right now. Businesses are hurting, employers are hurting, and to tell the truth, we're all hurting. We're all damaged by this pandemic. And so for the next 14 months, we're not going to be following any kind of major glitzy strategy. We're just going to be focused on how can we bring the Kitsap community together. We know we can't do it as easily in the casino that's up in Suquamish. We know we can't do that. How do we bring our community together and grow it in this time? And so that's what we're going to be focused on. We're going to be focused on providing resources to the community. Our team has been spending hundreds of extra hours delivering grants to this community. I wouldn't be surprised if that continues as we enter the new year.
Delivering grants, did you say?
Yeah. Grants, CARES grants that we administer on behalf, that we evaluate and process on behalf of the county, on behalf of Bremerton, on behalf of Port Orchard. We have our own grant program. These deadlines close, but realistically, we think another round of stimulus is likely from the federal level, and we'll probably see it in the next 6 months.
Okay. We're not going to hold you to that. I keep my fingers crossed. I'd like to ask you one more question, and then Nathan, maybe you could jump in if you have something to add. For many years, we didn't want people to move here because we had our little worlds, at least I'm speaking for myself, we had our little worlds, and we liked where we lived. And when we moved here 20 years ago from Seattle, we'd even lock our door. That's not the case anymore. What, in your opinion, or Nathan, your opinion, what are the biggest draws today as we sit here for regional or national? What are the biggest draws to Kitsap County that either of you see?
So from a workforce perspective, why do people move here? In the past, it's been something about affordability, right? And it's been, are you well positioned in the Seattle metro market?
Yeah.
Well, now some of that's changing. We're seeing the highest median prices we've ever seen in our county. We're seeing people move here. So clearly there's an element of keeping Kitsap and having access to this wonderful place where we live, where you have the mountains and you have the water and you have amazing access to Seattle via a variety of ferries where you don't need to drive on, you can just walk on the boat. So I think
I would say balancing, protecting our environment, balancing the environment, the building with our environment, I think that's extremely important. We need to continue doing that, preserving our environment.
Yeah, so
with building.
What's coming up in the conversation I'm having is yes, growth, especially economic growth, yes, growth, balanced growth.
Balanced growth, yeah. Thank you, Joe. Nathan, do you want to add anything at all? Or?
To keep it brief, I'd say it is quality of life. I think we're at a size where we can still have a community where you know folks, but I do think we've got room to grow and still keep that. We're a very large land area actually, and
dense, yeah.
Right. So
yeah. I feel very strongly about Keita and what they do in our community, and we have a board that is so committed to what we've talked about today. And I think that's why Keita, since 1983, I think that's why they've grown, developed, because of the leadership in our community. And the leaders are every segment of our community. They believe in this organization. The county believes in this organization, but we have to learn to do it differently as we move forward. And you pointed that out, Joe, as we move forward. So I'll close with that. Thank you both for being here with me. See you tomorrow morning for a board meeting. And I am going to say goodbye to the public. This has been an exciting time, learning more about business development, retention in Kitsap County, and bringing in new business under these perilous COVID times. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together. Thanks for joining me on Kitsap County Commissioner's Corner. I'm still Ed Wolfe. See you next time.
Thank you.